Good afternoon, traders. This is Christian from Tribeca Trade Group, and it is Tuesday, May 12th. Theme of the day, reversal day. Momentum's got a little bit nutty today, as they have been, for the last couple weeks. So we really saw a decent reversal in some of those names. So we'll kind of go through that a little bit today. Whenever this happens, you can kind of be somewhat ready for it. This is something that we had talked about in the weekend video, that some things were really getting stretched. I talked a lot about the city panic euphoria model has reached euphoria. These things should be jumping out at you. And I even post Helen Meisler's column yesterday, which I hope she doesn't mind me quoting her, but here was what she said yesterday. I always like when I can find somebody that I like, agree with in terms of risk to reward, in terms of being objective. But this is what she said in her column yesterday, and I'll kind of just start from there. And these sentiment models, right? They're only one piece of the puzzle. So the whole thing is you have to put the pieces of the puzzle together, right? There's no one perfect model. And that's what I really liked that she said yesterday. And then she said, my mentor in this business used to say, if the market gods tapped you on the shoulder and told you you were within 5% of the high, you'd sell everything. So this really struck me yesterday. Now, let's talk about, so we addressed this all in the weekend video and so forth. However, it gets very difficult when we see every momentum name that's getting call activity, right? So I participated today and I got caught into some things today. But I have that in the back of my mind that I'm never going to be able to pick the top. Am I going to loosen up and or lighten up my risk as we're going higher and higher? Yeah. And if I'm going to if I'm still going to participate, it's going to be on a little bit of a smaller scale. Those are the tricks that I do. I just have come to the conclusion that I'm never going to time the bottom, and I'm never going to time the absolute top. Is this the absolute top of how far we run? I don't know. We don't know that yet. So you just kind of have to take one thing day at a time and realize what some of the short-term indicators are telling you when sentiment is running as hot as it was, right? So, I mean, another thing that we could look at, by the way, just so that you know that I'm not making stuff up, here was the post, and I never put stuff out in caps, but I said at 1 o'clock today, I said, guys, please make sure you are taking targets. The momentum is crazy right now. Who knows how long it will last? Because again, I can't pick a market top. Nobody can. Make sure you lock up some profits. Sentiment is running super hot. Now, there was still some really nice setups, and I participated in a couple of them, and I'm still long a few of them. So one of the things that I did today. So let's see. Do I want to talk about today's option activity, or do I want to just talk? Let me finish the thought here, right? Things like this we know have been out of hand, right? This is something that we've been looking at now for weeks. This is IWO versus IWM, small cap growth versus small cap value. Sometimes I show it the other way around with value in the numerator. This one, I'm just showing you how far growth has run versus value. It's crazy, isn't it? But were you going to sell here? Were you going to sell here? Were you going to sell here? Or were you going to try to ride the trend as long as you could? In my opinion, you ride the trend as long as you can, but you take targets and you be smart along the way. It's just what I've learned, because you could have said it here too. You could have said that growth was way out of hand back over in the beginning of April, and you just would have said, forget it. I'm gonna start buying puts. Well, you would have gotten smoked if you did that in growth names. So don't let anybody try to tell you. And this is, by the way, this is large cap as well. So don't, if you see victory laps today on Twitter, or if you see people saying that they called it, if they happen to call it to the exact second, well, they must have a crystal ball, because if they called it yesterday, they would have gotten smoked this morning too with these names, or they wouldn't have been participating as we did in some things this morning as well as yesterday. So just bear that in mind. It's really difficult to say when it's actually going to turn. Now, Let's talk about a couple. And the other thing is too, I follow option activity. I watch because it's a great gauge of short-term momentum. But we started to see just about every name go today, right? Every one of like the lower quality names, or sorry, let me say that differently. The Not the lower quality names, but the highest growth names. So like your Beyond Meat was running, and all kinds of call activity in this thing today, right? And look at this thing reverse. Now, granted, so keep in mind, so there's two things to learn from this that you can kind of take away if you're new to option activity. Option activity, all these guys are doing is playing momentum. They don't know any, for the majority. I would say the majority of the stuff that you see on the tape, I'll say about 90%, they're just playing momentum. They don't know anything. Everybody thinks because some I don't want to say anything bad, but there are some people that continuously call option activity smart money. That's the first thing to get out, like go in one ear and go out right the other. That's not smart money. All they're doing is playing momentum. Now, what happens is with call activity, there's 5 or 10% where they actually do know something, right? They know that something like, a deal is going to happen, just like Grubhub got announced. I'm sure that there was some Grubhub. People are going to do data mining and look for that one Grubhub order. They knew it. And it's the same. So people get sucked into, I think retail traders get sucked into hearing about all the smart money knows. Well, if they were buying calls all the way up here, any one of these, names that we saw today. What's the other one? And there's 10 of these, but what's the one? DKNG, right? This is another one, right? Buying calls all the way up. So they didn't know anything. They're just playing. All they're doing. People have a computer model and they see momentum and they just start buying. And that's basically what the majority. Now, this is great to play with, and I participate because if something's going to go nuts like this, so be it. I played, and I'll go through all my trades as usual, but SFX, and I sold out of this one today. So you kind of have to pick. So what I did today was kind of pick and choose which ones. I'm like, okay, this is, I don't think this hit my ultimate target. Maybe it was close to it. But if I go through here in my trades, again, we'll always show you. And like I said, I even got caught playing Tesla at the end of the day, which is particularly painful. But today started off pretty regularly. Chewy was another one. Chewy, by the way, went to my target, and again, the whole thing is take targets. And these names still may work too. It's just that the momentum just got way in front of itself. I like to call it way over the tips of your skis, right? So here is my target, right? Here's where we started to see call buying yesterday, all into here, also into. Do we see call buying in Chewy today? Maybe it was just yesterday. But it made somebody asked me in the trading room today, they said, where are you going to take your target? I said, well, I'll take my target at the top of value on the 1 hour, 41.35. And I got it. And, I could have just taken the whole thing off too, because my cost basis was what, $38? It was $38 from this morning. So, that would have been a perfect trade just to be very happy with. But what I like to do is try to see how long, names will actually run for. This ILMN was a real nice one today, too. That one saw call activity yesterday. It's still kind of holding this breakout. Let's see how it looks on the daily. Yeah, the daily. So what I did with this, right? So here's a good example. And again, I'm still in it. But what I did was I rolled this from the 360 calls. I got out at 16. I paid 11.70. So I took a target at 15, and then I got out at 16. And then what I did was I rolled a little bit just so I still have exposure. It's all the way up to September too. So I'm now in the 370 calls at 12.80. So I've already locked in basically the gains. So we'll see if this closes above. It's got to close above value. All right, and Now, so let's try to figure out what's happening next. So overall, the S&P has really not moved too far from where we were last week, right? So we've basically been chopping around. It's really the momentum names that have been, you know, going absolutely insane. Here's, I think, where you'll see where we were kind of where I was saying on Twitter. I said, this is now this tested on Monday. This tested in the overnight market this morning. The top of value. Notice we did not take out this high here. This was at what time was this morning? Oh, I guess this was this morning. And then we were just kind of drifting lower all morning. But the 80% rule is now in effect. So meaning that we could probably see a move all the way down to 2808. So if this happens, and this is happening very quick, the VIX moved from about a 28 to a 32 in a matter of 40 minutes. So again, always this happens always so fast. So the only way that you can kind of, I don't want to say the only way, but for me, what I normally do is as I'm just taking trades and as I'm realizing that sentiment is super hot, I try to scale down my trades and then I just try to take targets as much as can be. And then I even force some exits. So I'll give you, an example. Again, and I'm not saying I played this perfectly today, but Walmart, right, at 1 o'clock, I'm like, let me just get out of this thing. It's back to my cost basis. I had a nice little winner in this one earlier today. Um, this one I'm not out of. I actually added to this one, so that wasn't. I thought there was another name that I decided. Oh, this one. Yeah, out of balance of Stitch Fix. I said, you know what? So I just kind of you have to make some sacrifices. Even though everybody wants to see these things run, but if you have too many positions on, and that's kind of what I was feeling too, around 12 and 1 o'clock. I said, you know what? This thing it's just running too hot. So again, I didn't sell everything, but and I still have a handful of positions on, but that's I'm at a place where I'm comfortable, and if the market wants to sell off a little bit more, so be it, right? And then what I also talked about in over the last week. Again, this was just a little trade I put on. I think whenever I get into puts, I always get out of them a little bit too quickly. But I always say, too, when these momentum names start selling off, this is what one of the messages I have tried to nail down the last week. Pick something, pick a momentum name or an ETF that you could buy puts against. If you're gonna stick it out and hold some of these names, if you're in a lot of growth names, find something that matches on the put side. So it can be an ETF like IGV. It could just be the Qs. If you're in a lot of momentum names, just buy Qs puts, right? Because that matches. If you're in those. Now, if you're in a well-balanced portfolio, then you buy SPY puts, right? And that's the best way to kind of minimize the damage if you are positioned more long versus short. I mean, that's normally how I'm always positioned, right? Because the market does go up over time, so I'm always skewed to the long side. All right, and also, another thing that looked pretty ugly today, which is why I think that we're going to see a little bit of continuation to the downside, was the small caps. Look at what the small caps have been doing the last couple days, right? The other thing is we've been talking about. I'm just trying to go through some of the things that we've talked about the last couple days. Market breadth has been dismal, right? So that's not been confirming what's going on. The leadership now, I've been talking about how it's not just, of course, the FANG stocks, which is what the media. I think today is the first day I've heard the media talk about biotech, which is probably why it's sold off. It's funny how that happens, right? I heard that twice on one station today where they mentioned, oh, you know what? It's not just the FANG stocks, it's actually biotech. Well, biotech had the reversal today. This is again the first day because up until now the majority of what they were saying, oh, it's only five stocks, which is complete and utter BS. But again, and then the other thing that's been very nasty is the banks. They haven't been able to rally even when the market is green, except for one-offs. The semis also got hit pretty hard today too. They were down 2.75. Okay, so so to kind of leave to, and then finally, like the last thing, after this market, I don't know where Druckenmiller is speaking, but he's mentioning some pretty negative stuff too. So that's not going to be great for the market. So what do you do at this point? Well, if you're like me and you play a lot of things to the long side, let it. I've talked about as well in the weekend newsletter. Is this you need a shakeout, and every once in a while you need the market to shake out a little bit. Why? Because it shakes out all this super positive sentiment, right? This sentiment has gotten crazy. Uh, right? And here's this model again. I use it because it's been accurate. Now, is it perfect timing? No, but you know, it's just one of those things that's been very reliable for me. So let this kind of play out a little bit. I didn't, buy anything on the close, or I actually wish I would have some puts here because I do think that we go through and get this and tag this bottom of value. Now we may do that in the overnight market, considering how fast these moves take place. I mean, this is basically an hour move, an hour and a half move. All right, guys. So that's it. That's again, it's not it's not the end of the world that the market gets hit like this every once in a while. It's actually, if you're used to this and if you've been trading for a while, you actually embrace it, right? Because it's very difficult to continue to play things when the sentiment was running as hot as it was, and the leadership was really getting narrower and narrower. We need this to kind of shake out a little bit. I think it probably needs to shake out another day, but I don't know. I don't have a crystal ball. And then what will happen is we'll see if this 2808 holds, right? And 2808, if we look at this, if 2808 doesn't hold, right, which is basically the point of control for the month, we'll have to see, because now we're basically, there is no 80% rule, by the way, in for May, because we opened up inside value. So we could chop around a little bit, right? And a couple other names that just have been going ballistic, right? This crowd, right? So a lot of these things, and again, I talked about this in the. I'm sorry to reference the weekend video, but I put a lot of work into it, right? And I try to really do a lot of research and come up with something comprehensive. But one of the names that I talked about, I said for this week's watch list, I said a lot of names I'm actually looking for a little bit of a pullback to get involved. So something like this, Okta, right, which is broken out. I would love if this thing comes back and checks back to top of value, right? So don't feel deflated like if you got caught in some things. It happens. It happens to everybody. Shake it off, and there'll be some great opportunities. But you just gotta be a little bit patient and when we do get the volatility, let things come in a little bit. And because when they do, they usually set up some great opportunities. All right, guys. Thanks for watching. Have a great night. See you tomorrow.